G'day and welcome, awards watchers. We are on the high holy day of Hollywood's awards season. It is Oscar day. We are just shy of 2.5 hours away from the main event, and we're going to be with you for the next 2 hours breaking down the big races, potential upsets, and 100% accurate predictions. No one does it like we do at Gold Derby. Because it's such a big day, I have something prepared to start us off. I didn't want to get all nervous at the beginning and things. I'm joined by Rob LeCourrier, Zach Laws, and Riley Chow to start off, and we're going to have a rotating panel of Oscar and awards experts. So, Rob, I'm going to start with you. How big a night is it going to be for La La Land? 14 nominations, an equal record. How many will win?
I know that this is the big question, right? Because will it join Ben-Hur, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, and Titanic and win 11? Will it win 13? Will it win 9? Will it win 8? I'm thinking it's probably going to win about 8 or 9. I think it's not going to be a complete sweep like some people are thinking, but we're all going to know the answer to that question pretty early on when we start looking at those awards like costume design, production design, cinematography, and editing. So I am not sure. That's not a very helpful answer.
Riley, what do you think? How many is La La Land going to take out? How big a night will it be for them?
Well, I don't have it taking costumes or editing like at the BAFTAs, but I do have it taking both sounds, which people have sort of jumped away from. So I think I still have it for 10, which is quite a lot.
10's a good night. Zach?
I have it for 10 as well, although I am predicting costumes and editing. I'm not predicting sound editing or screenplay. I feel like we're all basically in the same ballpark here. It's just like the awards that we're expecting it to win are varying a little bit. But I think we can all agree that we're going to be hearing City of Stars playing quite a bit this evening. So get ready for that. I'm going to make that prediction.
Yep. What do you think, Rob? Are we going to have more wins for La La Land or more references to Donald Trump?
I hope it's the latter. Even though I do like La La Land a lot, I love it when it gets really political, and I'm looking forward to all the people complaining about the elite, coastal elites and all that nonsense about how celebrities shouldn't have an opinion. Why not let them have an opinion? A celebrity is the president, for God's sake. So let these celebrities have their say while they have the platform. I can't wait to see what's going to happen, because it'll become memes for the next 2 weeks, and people will be so outraged, and that's going to be even more exciting than La La Land winning everything.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I think with the political, like, people love complaining about award shows being boring. And then when people say something that's interesting, people then complain too. So people love to complain about the award shows. Zach, do you think more Trump mentions or more La La Land wins?
I think it's going to be about an equal amount. I think we can look forward to Damien Chazelle accepting his Best Director award and dedicating it to the crew of La La Land and to, all of the Syrian refugees and things. That's horrible. But seriously, though, I mean, I think we're looking at a pretty political night. So
yeah,
and all these people who are complaining about celebrities having an opinion about things, they wouldn't be complaining if they weren't afraid of their influence. So.
Yeah. What do we think about and you were talking about this a bit before we went on air, Rob, the big upsets of the night. Apparently you're picking a few outside the box predictions. What's the biggest upset you're predicting, Rob, in one of the sort of not just like what's the biggest outsider you're picking, but what would be the upset that you're picking that would get the biggest headline tomorrow morning?
Okay, so not a rival in sound editing or sound mixing. I'm going with Isabelle Huppert and Best Actress, and that's not really. I'm sure other people are predicting that as well, but I'm going to probably really regret that at the end of tonight when Emma Stone has her moment in the spotlight. But I just have a feeling that Isabelle Huppert could actually do it. So I'm going there. I'm really going there, and it will be huge. I think people will be very, very excited for that, because it doesn't happen very often that you get a foreign actress winning from a foreign film that hasn't been nominated for anything else. It just seems almost impossible, but I'm going there.
What do you think, Riley? Isabelle Huppert, crazy? Is Rob off his rocker, or is that a sound pick?
I think he's off his rocker. I mean, I think if she had been eligible for BAFTA, then she might have won. But you still got to go with Emma Stone. They love their young starlets.
Yeah. Do you think there's any suspense to that race, Riley? I think it's pretty up in the air. I could see this race going any number of ways.
Yeah, no, I think she's got a chance. I mean, we haven't seen these two face off many places throughout the season. Not a pick that I'm losing any sleep over.
Yeah. Zach, what do you think about the Best Actress race?
You know, she's my number 2. She'd be my personal pick as well. I think when she won the Golden Globe, it surprised a lot of us because we were all probably predicting Natalie Portman to win there, who I now have in 4th place. So I think that speaks to the way this category has been kind of fluid throughout the season. Had Emma Stone lost anything significant, be it BAFTA, Golden Globe, or SAG, I would be more... Well, she did lose Critics' Choice, but, I mean, granted, they held their awards on December 1st at a ridiculous time.
Yeah, crazy.
So they were all predicting Natalie Portman to win it there anyway. But anyway, had she lost anything truly significant, I would be more inclined to pick someone else. But I think Emma Stone's probably safe tonight. She's the ingenue. She's in the Best Picture front runner. But it wouldn't surprise me if Isabelle Huppert won. I think it'd be a very pleasant development.
Yeah, I think it's the kind of win, Isabelle Huppert, that if it happens, we'll all go, of course. Like, that was the cool pick. She's a tour de force in the film. It's sort of like... like almost the Marion Cotillard one, where she wasn't the front runner that year, but now in hindsight, it just seems so like, of course she won it. Of course Marion won that award. So I think like it is sort of, I'd put her in second at the moment. I really do think it's amazing how sort of quickly Natalie Portman fell from being sort of the sort of presumptive winner to someone who's now, as sort of Zach says, sort of hovering around the 4th spot in the race, and I'd say that's a fair spot for her. But I don't think her winning's out of the question. Like, I think Natalie Portman's still slightly in the hunt, but I do think if Emma Stone gets upset, it's probably Isabelle Huppert, who's probably got a bit more steam, a bit more attention. There's a bit more of an exciting story if she wins. Or Meryl Streep, who her speech at the Globes, I think, was a massive... if she wins, will be the game changer of the race, which I'm not sure how keen I am on people winning based on speeches they gave at awards. But Meryl Streep's a great in Florence Foster Jenkins. It's not a bad performance. So,
and she's been everywhere this season. Speaking of somebody who lives and works out here in Hollywood, she was honored at the Costume Designers Guild of all places. She was at the Women in Film ceremony that they had 2 days ago. So, I mean, she's been everywhere campaigning. So it wouldn't surprise me if she gets a ton of votes. We should also say Ruth Negga could upset here, even though she hasn't been nominated anywhere. But, you know, there are 2 things happening this year that I think are really interesting. There's voting for La La Land, but then there's also atoning for Oscars So White. And I think we could see a lot of minorities winning tonight.
And look, in any race where you're talking about 4 people potentially with a path to win, if you're saying, oh, Portman might win, she was the front runner early in the season, Meryl Streep, Emma Stone's obviously the front runner, Isabelle Huppert, like I said, any race where you're talking about 4 potential winners, the 5th person's not out of it, because that a 4-horse race means vote splitting could come into play, and it sort of opens up the field to that 5th contender. And as you say, the atonement for Oscars So White. Like, in theory, if Ruth Negga was able to win, we could see minorities win all 4 categories tonight.
Yeah, wouldn't that be interesting?
So that would be like Oscar history, and that would be really exciting.
I'm predicting at least 3, so it's not outside the realm of possibility.
So yeah. Any thoughts on this race, Riley, before we move on?
It's not going to be Ruth Negga. Come on.
You say that now, and then she's going to win the Oscar. You know,
Yeah.
like back in 2012, everyone said it's not going. 2002, excuse me. Everyone said it's not going to be Adrian Brody. It's not good. You know, so never say never.
Right.
Yeah. I do think, Riley, you probably don't agree that it's a 4-horse race for lead actress.
Yeah, no. I think, like, I've had Emma Stone out front since, let's say, October, and I'm surprised by how much resistance she's gotten. So I think Huppert is much more of a threat than I would have thought. And she could still win, but I think Emma Stone just makes too much sense. Ticks too many boxes.
Yeah. Sure thing. Let's just have a quick look. What is there? I want to hopefully over this 2-hour show touch on each category, albeit briefly. Rob, you mentioned you're picking the upset of sound editing for Arrival. Is that right?
Sound mixing.
Sound mixing.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. So
My
sound
apologies.
editing, I think, will go to Hacksaw Ridge, but I'm thinking sound mixing won't go to La La, and I just think it will go to Arrival, and I have no real basis for that prediction. I'm going to be completely honest, but I think Arrival cannot go home empty-handed, and I just refuse to believe that will happen. So I'm thinking Arrival will win sound mixing, and it'll just be that one award where it just comes out of nowhere. And we've seen sound awards go to films out of nowhere before. In the last 5 to 6 years, like Zero Dark 30, and I'm just thinking of films like that where there was even a tie. It's certainly possible. I just think I needed to go out on a limb on a few categories so that I could at least give this one a really good go and maybe actually get some good points for once.
Okay, so you said you got no basis, which I'm not a huge fan of at Gold Derby, British Surveys, but you then set a basis, Rob. You said that you thought that Arrival would win something, and this was probably the category they're most likely to win in. Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think, Zach? Break it down. Break it down for us. What do you?
Well, Arrival did win the BAFTA for sound, didn't it?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. Right. So it's not too far out of the realm of possibility that it could win one of the sound awards. I think I would be more inclined to pick it for sound editing. Just because history is on the side of musicals winning sound mixing. Like literally every single musical has won sound mixing. And the only times we ever see the two sound awards split is when a musical wins sound mixing and a war film wins sound editing. So I think that, I would be more inclined to pick it for sound editing, although I'm going with Hacksaw Ridge there. Like Arrival, I so don't want it to go home empty-handed, but I've got it in second or third place in so many categories. Like I've got it second in sound editing, second or third in film editing, second or third in sound mixing, cinematography. There's just or production design. There's all these categories where I feel, screenplay, which, we should talk about the screenplay races because I think those are very competitive. There's just so many categories where I feel like Arrival is just kind of on the cusp of winning something, but not quite. I hope it surprises me at some point tonight.
Yeah, and look, we had American Hustle, 10 nominations, no wins a couple of years ago. It's not unheard of for a film to be in the hunt in a lot of categories and not be able to close on any of them. Riley, what are your thoughts on Arrival, but also those two sound awards?
Yeah, I think those sound awards are really going to determine who wins the predictions contest, because you could have Arrival win both, La La Land win both, Hacksaw Ridge, or maybe some kind of split between. Like Arrival, Rob was saying, won at the BAFTAs, and they predicted 8 years in a row from 2007 to 2014. So, but it sits behind La La Land and Hacksaw Ridge in the prediction center, because sometimes the Oscars just, like last year when The Revenant was winning the sound awards, and they just went for Mad Max because it was the loudest. So Hacksaw Ridge is the loudest in this group. And I did this article recently about are musicals unbeatable if they're nominated for sound mixing? Actually, not the case. 24 have won 57 years when a musical was up for sound mixing. So there have actually been several cases of them losing, like recently with Walk the Line and Moulin Rouge. And those are films that got Best Picture nominations or PGA nominations. So they had very broad support. but they were ultimately taken out by something that was louder, even though they had music. And La La Land, although it has music, it's not much else going on. The characters are talking and they're singing, but they're doing both very calmly. There's no gunfire, there's no action. But surprisingly, La La Land is nominated for sound editing. So it kind of demonstrates that it's got a ton of support from at least the sound branch. I mean, 83 films, 83 music-driven films have been nominated for sound mixing. La La Land is only the second that has been nominated for sound editing.
Crazy.
Would it be something if there was a split in sound editing, like the year that Les Mis won sound mixing, and then I think it was Zero Dark 30 and Skyfall both won sound editing?
That's right.
So Hacksaw Ridge and Arrival could each get half an Oscar.
I feel like that shows that they don't really know what to do with this award when they don't have a musical. Because like Les Miserables is obviously the obvious choice. They take that one, and then they get to the other category, and then they're just kind of scrambling.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going with La La Land in both.
Yeah, that was a good article you wrote, Riley, about those sound awards. I'm glad we had you here for this part of the discussion. Has there ever, because there's one thing to say not all musicals win. Have there been musicals that have been the front runner to win Best Picture that haven't won this award?
I think it's pretty rare that you actually get the Best Picture in this category that goes on to win. So. Yeah.
Okay. And what you said earlier, Riley, too, about if this could be quite a telling category. Like if Arrival won both, what did you say that could tell the tale of?
Oh, it's just that it's only third in the prediction center, so that'll take out a lot of people.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It'll be very telling in who does well in their predictions tonight. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So let's touch a bit on the. I don't know what this. I'm pretty confident with sound mixing to go La La Land. It's just I'm really on the fence. I've got Hacksaw Ridge at the moment. I think I might leave it there and just go with the loud film. Arrival's an interesting one because the film's all about communication and that might put sound at the forefront of it. Although a lot of that alien communication is drawing. It's not sound based communication. It's like coffee mug stains on the windows. So we'll see. I'm gonna stick. I was gonna change. I'm gonna stick with Hacksaw Ridge for sound editing. But I'm very not loving that pick. Not I'm very nervous. Very, very nervous. But I think go with the war move, all the big explosions and stuff. Zach said he wanted to chat a bit about the writing categories. Let's move over there. Let's talk about some writing. Zach, kick us off. Which screenplay category? Who's going to win the writing categories?
Well, the short answer is I don't know, and the long answer.
What?
I'm predicting Manchester by the Sea in original and Moonlight in adapted. But I should say, in original, I really think La La Land could win if it's just going to sweep through the categories. It won the Golden Globe, and the Golden Globe is historically a very good predictor of the screenplay winner. Last year they picked Steve Jobs, but that was an anomaly, and I don't think anyone was predicting that not to get nominated for screenplay last year. But anyway, Manchester by the Sea did win the BAFTA, but it lost the Writers Guild Award to Moonlight, and that's why I'm sort of on the fence about picking it. I figured if anybody was going to reward Kenneth Lonergan, it would be the Writers Guild. I'm picking it for original just because I feel like Manchester by the Sea is going to win something, and I don't think it's going to be Casey Affleck. So I'm picking it for screenplay. Adapted, I'm going with Moonlight because of that Writers Guild win, but honestly, I could see Arrival, Lion, or Hidden Figures winning for various reasons. Arrival won Writers Guild, Lion won BAFTA, and Hidden Figures is the most popular movie in theaters right now and has 3 chances of winning something. So,
Rob, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, everything that Zach said, I totally agree with. There was a whole period of time leading up to the nominations where many of us thought Arrival was pretty much a shoo-in for this category, and then Moonlight was moved over to adapted because the Academy made that ruling about the play, the unproduced play that it's based on, and so Moonlight became like the film to beat, because you know how sometimes the screenplay categories are like consolation prizes for the films that aren't going to win Best Picture or Best Director. And I think Barry Jenkins will get his Oscar. Really, I'm pretty confident that it will win there. But Arrival is certainly a film to look out for, as is Hidden Figures and as is Lion, which just won the BAFTA like last week. So that category is doing my head in. In the original side, yeah, it could just be La La Land winning that. And that would be very surprising to me, because I do think that Manchester by the Sea will win something. So I'm just repeating every single thing that Zach said, because I totally agree with it. But what would happen if one of the other films in original, the 20th Century Women or The Lobster, or what if they happen to win? I just think the screenplay categories are all over the place, and they're very hard to predict, and I don't think they're as locked in as many of us believe.
I think The Lobster is your real dark horse in this race, because this got nominated on the strength of its screenplay.
Right.
This is not a film that popped up anywhere else, which usually is a bad sign, but I do think it's sort of a good sign for this film in the sense of Lobster, it's the screenplay. It's such an original idea, and the screenplay is front and center. And if you were to look at these 5 films, go, which film has the most original screenplay? Mm-hmm. It'd be The Lobster. I don't think it's going to win. I think that I'm actually thinking of switching to La La Land for screenplay, just because I'm reminded, and rather correct me if I'm wrong about this, but when The Artist won screenplay. That one screenplay, didn't it, right?
No, Midnight in Paris won screenplay.
Did Midnight in Paris when they beat The Artist? Ooh, they might maybe change to they might maybe change back to Manchester by the Sea. Actually, Riley, you talk about the screenplay category while I mull it over.
Sure. Well, just saying about The Lobster, we haven't seen it compete with these other screenplays a lot either, because it wasn't eligible at the Writers Guild, and at BAFTA it actually contended last year. I'm going with La La Land because I think we underestimate how often the screenplay category gets swept up by the Best Picture, because we see the screenplay categories often go to kind of quirkier, more original movies like Django Unchained or Her, and then we think that'll kind of happen every time with, let's say, Inglourious Bastards and The Grand Budapest Hotel, and those are kind of the bigger upsets in this category in recent memory, when The Hurt Locker and Birdman swept up their screenplays. There was a different, more original screenplay in contention. I don't think Manchester by the Sea even fits that bill of being kind of like a quirky, really original story. And I think that it's kind of just, I think it'll get more easily lost in the shuffle, like, let's say, Up in the Air, which also is a film that starred, this kind of mild-mannered performance, I guess, that was favored for a while. It's got a few other acting nominations, but when it gets to the Academy, they don't really like it as much as the other groups. They don't give it an editing nomination, and it just kind of goes home empty-handed. Doesn't get a consolation prize.
The big difference, though, between those two movies, and I have been having a vibe, an up-in-the-air vibe for Manchester by the Sea, but the big difference between those two nominees is that there was a bit of a backlash against Jason Reitman, because he was trying to get sole screenwriting credit for that movie, and he was trying to just win the Oscar on his own without Sheldon Turner, and he was going around doing that while he was campaigning. And so there was kind of a feeling of, even though he won every single thing for that screenplay, of, not wanting to reward him ultimately because of the petty way that he was acting. So, I mean, that is sort of a big difference between the two. We should also say that Hell or High Water is in the hunt here too, and I think is a potential spoiler. Best Picture nominee, very popular, has been around since August and stuck in people's minds. I wouldn't be surprised to see that win. But I don't know what to pick. I'm going to pull out the rest of my hair over these two screenplays.
It could kind of be like an Ex Machina, that everybody saw early on, everybody really liked, and it just pops up somewhere.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me about that, because did anyone predict Ex Machina for visual effects last year? That was such a shocker.
Nope.
That's going to happen in a few hours' time. There has to be a couple at least of films that come out of nowhere and win an Oscar. We're all going to be scratching our heads.
Yeah,
that's really exciting.
Oscar, Best Picture, the last couple of years aside, but Best Picture, Best Director, the acting awards, fairly predictable. And to be honest, even though we've had tight Best Picture races the last couple of years, we've known the two films it's down to. But in some of the screenplay category sometimes, and in some of the other awards like visual effects, sound editing, sound mixing, that's where you sometimes get a really left field winner.
Mm-hmm. It's not like last year where it was basically Big Short and Spotlight, at BAFTA and Writers Guild, and there was just no question. We've had different winners everywhere.
Yeah.
I could even see Fences winning adapted screenplay just because it's the same exact material as the Pulitzer Prize winning play.
Yeah.
Same author. And if that movie is going to win 2 acting awards, as I'm predicting, could win a screenwriting one.
Yeah. No, definitely. So I've gone with La La Land now for original screenplay. I just feel like go with the Best Picture winner. I think it's also I'm actually getting American Hustle vibes from Manchester by the Sea. Like a lot of nominations, not winning any. But I think it's always dangerous in Oscar predictions to make a direct parallel between two films. Yeah. Like, this is the whatever of this year. This is exactly what will happen. So. We'll
and again,
see.
He tried to get sole screenwriting credit during Oscar season. Let's not forget. Shot himself in the foot on that one. So
that is fair. I might ask. I'm going to ask now. You guys stay on, but I'm going to ask Amanda Spears and Chris Beecham to join us now, and we'll keep you guys on until they join the fray. Riley, is there a category you're particularly keen to talk about?
I guess the shorts, there's a lot of decided stuff
Do you want to run
there.
us through the 3 shorts, Riley, quickly? We'll touch on them. These are your real, if you're trying to win your Oscar pool at work, 3 categories that can make or sink you, the short film.
Yeah, and so, I don't think we're going to be any help either. I think we all have Piper, right, for animated?
Yes.
That's dangerous, going with Piper. Dangerous.
So dangerous.
Well, I've seen all 5 of them, Matt, and I'm still going with it.
Same. Have you guys all seen them? Or?
I've seen Piper.
Okay.
But,
and so is every voter.
What would be the film to upset Piper, Zach, if you've seen all 5?
I would say Borrowed Time, which is made by people. Oh, it's made by people who work for Pixar, and it has a very similar vibe to it. But it's also, it's the second best of all 5 of them. It's a very mature story. It's very well done. Very dark for an animated short. I just think, it's dangerous to bet against the Pixar short in this category. I don't have.
When do Pixar shorts win?
Wait, never?
What do you mean never? Feast. Just like 2 years ago.
Apart from Feast.
Many times.
I would say that Borrowed Time is the least likely to upset Piper. I thought.
What about Pearl?
Yeah, I go with Pear Cider and Cigarettes. I thought that's the only one with any substance. I think the issue with Piper is that it's just about this little bird, tweeting about flying around.
It's so cute.
And I felt that shorts are kind of like that. And then you get to Pear Cider and Cigarettes, which is longer than the rest of them combined. So it's got a lot more of a story. So it's one that stands out from, the other oranges in a bag of apples.
What's the most innovative in terms of animation?
Well, I guess, Pearl is a Google 360 thing. And that guy is a previous Oscar winner for Feast.
Yeah. I like
I'm going with Pearl.
Yeah.
I'm locking it in.
But I think I've
Piper.
Yeah.
It's so adorable. The little baby bird, just and the little baby crab, it's okay, buddy. Look up. The water is fine.
The sand is so beautiful. The way it's just so well done.
Yes.
See, I was saying that was the easiest of the short categories to predict, and we.
Oh well.
Quick predictions, guys, before I ask you to leave on the other 2 short categories.
I'm going in documentary with the white helmets.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all, any of those 5 could win. They're all very relevant and timely. I'd say my second place is Joe's Violin. In live action short, I'm going with the French one, La Femme et la TGV.
Yeah.
It's very charming, very emotional. All the experts are predicting enemies interiors. I'm sorry, I can't speak French, but you know, but I think they're going to go with, as Chris and I were talking about last night, always go with the one that's the most charming and emotional. So,
Yeah. And which one's that? Sorry, Zach.
La Femme et TGV.
Rower lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So, thank you for joining us, Rob, Zach, and Ryan. I'm going to ask you later so Chris and Amanda can sort of take the reins of our discussion. So if you want to close your windows now. And yeah, thanks for joining us.
Bye, guys.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. We're here with Chris Beecham, Amanda Spears. We've talked a bit about shorts races, sound editing, sound mixing. Let's ping pong back over to one of the acting races. Denzel Washington versus Casey Affleck. Chris, break it down for us.
One of those 2 guys is going to win tonight.
Very good. Who are you betting
I've
on?
gone so back and forth. When I walked out of the Fences screening, I said, "Oh, Denzel and Viola, it's a certainty." And I'd already seen Casey, but Denzel's just so, they love big performances. That goes for Emmys, Tonys, you know, Oscars, anybody. When people can see you acting, they just can't help themselves. And I think Denzel's done himself no harm at all this whole season because he's been everywhere. He's been at every party, every event, every reception. I put everything down on paper a couple of days ago. I just was like, okay, there's like 7 categories I'm really concerned about. And I just thought, if I had done that last year for Mark Rylance, I would have seen that he was going to win because he had won a couple of the big critics awards. Of course, he won BAFTA right at the end. Really, all Stallone had going for him was the Globe and Critics' Choice, and that was way back, weeks and weeks before. Anyway, when I did that, I just looked and went, Casey's won so much. Denzel's really won one big prize, and it was a big one. It was a huge one. SAG shares a lot of voters with the Oscars. I had to go back to Casey. It felt like he's got the numbers backing him up.
Yeah. Amanda, what do you think?
Well, I'm going with Ryan Gosling as the vote split. No, I'm kidding.
Boy, that would have been an interesting thing to talk about.
I just wanted to see if Chris reacted, and he's just so.
No, it's not impossible. He's a charming guy, and I mean, if La La Land, sometimes movies get on sweeps that you can't even possibly imagine. Who thought they were going to win everything at the Globes? Everything. A group that loves to spread things out.
Oh yeah, you can almost mathematically calculate how they're going to spread things out. But I'm going with Denzel. He won SAG, and I just think that he's got all the goodwill going for him. And after the Oscar So White 2 years in a row, won't it be lovely to see him win his 3rd Oscar, and he'll be the first African-American performer to do so? He kind of fits the kind of person who should win. And I don't buy that he's unlikable. I think you feel sorry for him. Plus, he gives the biggest performance. Whereas I think that Casey Affleck has never really helped himself on the red carpet because he's very stoic and the performance is very stoic.
Well, let me just say one thing about Casey that most people wouldn't know. I've said that all season, every time we've had a slugfest, and yet when I've been behind the scenes at things, or like sitting in the DGA press room watching the feed of what was going on, he was so funny, and I thought, he's doing this every time I see him backstage somewhere or in a hallway or whatever. I just thought he seems to be a different guy privately. And if he's doing that, think of all the directing branch members that were sitting in that room, and multiply that over all the other places that I saw him. He's not as bad as I was making him out to be. So anyway, I'm so split on this. I don't know. I woke up this morning turned on the TV, and the first face I saw, I wasn't even on an entertainment channel. The first face I saw was Denzel Washington. I thought, oh, that's a sign. It wasn't even related to fences. It was just him on a commercial for something. And I thought, oh, maybe that's a sign. And now I want to switch. So, but I'm going with Casey, I think.
Yeah, I think it could be interesting. Like, Casey's got a bit of reputation for being a bit prickly and stuff like that, maybe due to some of our slugfest, Chris. But he's like, if you think that about someone, then you meet them and they're actually really nice. Like, if your expectations are low, it can really turn you around on someone. You go, boy, I thought Casey Affleck would be really prickly, and he was such a nice young man and funny and stuff like that. Yeah, I will vote for him. Like, people give him a bad rap, so that could definitely be it. I think Denzel Washington's character is unlikable in Fences. I think he is very annoying in a sense, but I think it could help him in the sense of, like, Denzel Washington is such a charming, nice person in real life. So, like, Denzel Washington's a very likable guy. Playing a very unlikable guy could make people, because I don't think people are going to forget that they like Denzel Washington from watching the movie. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if that could highlight. I don't know. I'm going with Denzel here. I think it's a jump ball, and I just think maybe he's a bit more of the respected actor of the two, and in such a showy performance. I do wonder if it'll hurt him a little bit, it being a play adaptation of people just thinking he did what he did on Broadway. You know, I'm sort of, and I know this is the Emmys, but like thinking about how Bryan Cranston lost for Trumbo sort of thing.
But you had Courtney B. Vance giving
what do you think?
Yeah, but Courtney B. Vance gave a huge performance in OJ, so I think that's kind of. That's one where maybe that's a hard comparison, but they've never really had a problem in the past. I know Frank Langella didn't win, but he wasn't going to win that year. But I think there's just something about how huge his performance is, and he very much feels like his movie. He is very much the movie with Viola Davis, and I don't know how you award one without awarding the other. So I think maybe we could see a little mini sweep for Fences in the acting races.
Yeah, no, I think it's Denzel, but I do agree. It's a jump ball. Chris, what's one of the tech categories that you'd like to talk about now?
I've had so many discussions this week with different people, and one of them that keeps coming up is costume design.
Okay, let's go to that race.
Don't know what to do there, because La La Land was a certainty to win its Guild Award. They have an actual contemporary category, so winning there is not that big a deal. But Jackie losing to Hidden Figures, not even nominated at the Oscars, really makes me. I went with Jackie ultimately, but I mean, if it couldn't win at the Guild Award, and they don't always match up, but it should have beaten Hidden Figures, I would think.
Well, I think Hidden Figures is so light that maybe they were like, oh my gosh, Hidden Figures, and they didn't really.
If Hidden Figures was up at the Oscars, though, wouldn't you be predicting it right now off the Guild? Thinking, okay, that's where they're going to give it something. I don't know. My feeling comes back. I told Marcus earlier this week, two reasons I'm sticking with Jackie, and I've had it, I think, most of the way. One is they never, it's been over 20 years since they went with a contemporary movie in this category. And that was really lavish. Priscilla, was it Queen of the Desert or whatever? So, I mean, that one was, way over the top, whereas this one's very, very much what it needed to be. But I'm talking about La La Land. The thing I think about Jackie is, and I say this sometimes on when an actor or actress plays a true life person and they're really in contention for the award, you sometimes go, as a voter, they're thinking, oh, they really looked like them, or they sounded like them, or they walked like them. I think so many voters are looking at their ballot going, oh, I remember that dress, or I remember that style, or I just think they're going to be able to compare very easily and say, oh, they did a good job of matching that. So that's why I'm ultimately going with Jackie.
Can I throw something at you, Chris, in this category? Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them.
I would consider it if you could point to me one Harry Potter win in the last 15 years.
That's fair. But
it's never won anything.
It couldn't even win the other night in the fantasy, whatever that category was.
Yeah.
Mhm.
at the
Harry
Guild.
Potter is contemporary, and Fantastic Beasts is period. Like,
What was it in the other night? Was it in fantasy or period? I don't remember.
I
At the
think it
Guild.
might have been period.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we would have seen some signals. So, I mean, did it win? It won at BAFTA?
I don't know.
No, Jackie won costume at BAFTA.
That's right.
So-
That's right. Jackie won at BAFTA.
Yeah.
I will say, as far as like Jackie is concerned, because not to like, plug my work, but I did that photo gallery on all the films of Jackie Kennedy and the Kennedys, and not one of them has ever won an Emmy for recreating her clothes. So it does make me a little hesitant.
Well, Jackie's
It was-
underperformed all season long, almost everywhere, in terms of nominations and wins.
If there was one really big, lavish period film, I might go that way. But I think this is one where this is maybe its best chance to award the film, and the clothes are beautiful. And
You were talking me out of it, and now you're going with it?
I know I'm going with it because it won BAFTA. I'm going with it because it won BAFTA. But it does give me. I think what helps it out is that its biggest competition is a contemporary film. And I think when they vote, they're voting for the ones where they're making and designing these costumes. And they had to make all of the clothes in Jackie. They couldn't just go to the store and buy them.
One thing that bugs me, though, and going back to, you had your screenplay conversation earlier, this falls into that. It falls into costumes. I don't think Ryan would fit this, but several times over the past few months, we've seen sweeps we weren't expecting, whether it's the Globes. Look at the Spirit Awards. They usually split things up pretty well, too, and Moonlight won more than any movie's ever won. Not that I think that's going to necessarily transfer, but I'm just saying people seem to be really in sweep mode a lot lately. Like they don't care about splitting it up. So maybe we're underestimating La La Land. It's so close in screenplay and costumes. Maybe we should just go that way.
Yeah, and that's what I've done with screenplay. I just it's very hard for me to pick a contemporary film in this category. And then I look at Jackie and it's underperformed. That's why my head went Fantastic Beasts. It's more your sort of period meets fantasy costuming and things like that. And I think you do see films win here, like Alice in Wonderland, like a Disney film that doesn't really do well at the Oscars elsewhere. Though I do agree with you, Chris, we haven't seen Fantastic Beasts hit anywhere on the circuit. So I don't know. I don't want to predict anyone in this category.
Well, they've never awarded a Harry Potter film in any category. So if it had one win somewhere, that I might feel better about predicting it, because really La La Land and Fantastic Beasts are in a good position just being nominated for both costume and production design, because typically you kind of need to be nominated for both. Mm-hmm. But I think we're going to see one of those very rare occasions where a film wins costume design without being nominated for production.
Well, and when I say this stuff about especially the guilds, remember that's one mindset, one group voting at their own awards. Here at the Oscars, now that we're in the winner stage, everybody votes. A sound mixer is voting for costume design. A composer is voting for costume design, on and on and on. So you can't necessarily just look at the guild, but I do wonder and Marcus and I were having this conversation, especially about Jackie. These guilds get very territorial too. I'm not talking about the Oscar voters who, again, you have just a wide range of types of jobs, but let's say you're a costume design person, and I think these Jackie designers are all in France and they're French. They don't work in Hollywood. They don't work they're not mixing with these other costume guild people. So they're voting for their buddies and their friends and people they see quite often. So I wonder if that hurt Jackie at all at the costume guild, where it might not hurt it on an overall basis at the Oscars.
Yeah, I think that's something to look at. And I think if you just had costume designers voting, then I think La La Land would stand a better chance, because they probably could explain the skill involved in putting together the costumes for a contemporary film. But I think when you have actors and the sound mixers voting, they're probably looking for costumes. Yeah, and that's where Jackie kind of has an advantage, or maybe even like Florence Foster Jenkins, because you know, she's in performance costumes, and then they have her regular day wear.
Yep,
Yeah,
I agree.
I do think like one of my favorite Oscar speeches of the past sort of 5 or so years was when the costume designer one, and she sort of dedicated it to the people who do contemporary costumes, because she said they never come up here and get to win like we do, but the work they do is just as hard and difficult. And I'm sure a lot of those Emma Stone dresses in that film that when we walked out of the film, my sister said to me, "Oh boy, I loved her dresses. I bet they were all designed and cut and like all those sorts of things." And but anyway, I'm gonna look, guys. I'm gonna go with Fantastic Beasts because I feel like this is a good on the limb category. Because I feel like if I pick between La La Land and Jackie, I've still got a 50% chance of being wrong.
Well,
And
it could be Florence Foster Jenkins.
Super bet at Gold Derby.
We all need at least one limb.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
We all need to be on one limb at least.
And I picked Dev Patel.
Yes, that's
for my
my one.
limb.
I think everything else, like I'm on like Denzel Washington.
Well, to me, a
sort of
limb is like third or lower.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I have Joe's violin winning, so that's my like.
I've had it since the beginning, and I've moved things. Well, not every day, but I've moved things in and out, and never was comfortable, and I just kept going back to it, and ultimately, that's where I landed. I never know. I said this last year, and it turned out to be true. You know, when I build a prediction center, I just have to, especially on something like shorts, I just have to give them odds and then let everybody, as the thousands of people start voting, sort it out. But I think people, because the names of things are in order of how the odds are, I know I do this on some of the music awards, I just drag them over in that order, so it becomes something chasing its own tail after a while of are people picking it because I initially put something in first or second. So I looked at all of the experts today, and so many of them were picking what I originally had in first. I wondered if they just thought, oh, that's what I should be doing. So that helped me last year. I got 2 out of the 3 of those right, knowing that people were just probably doing that. So today I looked, and sure enough, everybody was seemingly picking the same ones I had started the odds out with. So I just thought, I can't trust this. I just have to go with my own. So I went with Joe's violin, I went with Piper, and I went with, I think I put every one of the 5 on the other one in first at some point, but I ultimately went back to Time Code. If you look at everybody's odds, they've all got different things in number 1, but Time Code is almost in everybody's number 2 position.
Mm.
And I think what helps Joe's violin in the documentary short category is that I think those Syrian refugee films kind of cancel each other out. They kind of bleed into each other if you watch them all in one sitting. It's very depressing.
Joe's violin's artistic. It's related back to the Holocaust. It just feels right to me.
Mm-hmm.
Very easy one to remember too.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I met those ladies Friday night, and they were very nice. So I'm going to put them. I told them I had them in first, and I'm just going to keep them in first.
Do we want to talk the? Almost we could. I feel like in part do these. Oh no, let's do it. Let's do one by one. What about supporting actor, Chris?
Right after BAFTA, I moved Dev Patel in, but Marcus and I got to talking, and over the next few, he was another one I put on my spreadsheet. Really, that's the only thing Dev has won. He's been nominated everywhere. Mahershala not only has, quite a few of the televised ceremonies, SAG and Critics' Choice, but it didn't win the Globe. But he also has some of the big Critics Awards, the main Critics Awards. So it's kind of like the Casey thing. When I looked at it on paper, it became a little more obvious to me. I'm suspicious of the fact that Dev is British. I think that helped him. I think Amanda even had a piece going into the weekend about that. I'm also suspicious of the fact of one thing he didn't win, and that was the Globe. If the voters were so enamored with giving somebody other than Mahershala, who was the front runner, a Globe, you would have thought they might have gone Dev Patel, a guy who's British, of Indian descent, playing an Indian and living in Australia. You'd think that would have just been right up their alley rather than somebody off the charts kind of. So the fact that they didn't kind of makes me wonder why not.
Amanda?
I'm not 100% convinced Mahershala didn't win supporting actor at the SAG Awards based on the TV vote. I think he is primarily known as a television actor, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying like it's a dirty word. But I think that kind of helped him, like it helped Hidden Figures. Oh, he's on House of Cards. Okay, check. He's probably a little bit more known. But I think Dev Patel, he's been in a Best Picture winner. He's not 26 and new. He's been through enough as far as all of these are concerned. We've seen him before. And I have this feeling between supporting actor and actress, like we're going to see something we're not expecting. And I just think the odds favor Patel in that kind of a situation. And Mahershala has kind of underperformed for somebody who was supposed to sweep everything with no problems along the way.
Well, I did hear voters actually tell me, because I'm always, if I meet a voter, I'm always like, well, tell me what you liked, what you didn't like, what are you thinking? Off the record, And one thing I did hear over and over was, because they see things after we've seen them often, or they're getting them on screeners. And one thing I heard continually on Mahershala was, oh, I loved it, but I didn't realize he was only going to be in the first third. So I think he continually disappointed people, not himself, but with that fact. Now, we're in an odd situation in that Dev is in the last half. So it's not like either one of them is like sprinkled through the whole movie, like say Jeff Bridges.
But I think the difference is that Mahershala doesn't play the main character. He plays a character the main character comes across.
Yeah.
Whereas Dev Patel is playing Lion, and he owns that last hour. I mean, he is the film. He has some big scenes where Mahershala is amazing. And it's ironic because at Emmy time I couldn't pronounce his first name. So
yeah.
It was like Ali. But Mahershala, he's very good, but it's very subtle. And I think there's not like one big scene where you can say that's why they keep going to him.
Well, I have heard that's the first category tonight. So we're gonna know how our night is going right away. And something is costumes is second. So we're all gonna know a little bit about our whole night after two categories.
I'm gonna have taken an acid. Like, my goodness.
Do you think Patel's performance is bigger in terms of like meat and like showiness and the kind that you'd probably more expect to win an Oscar than Mahershala? But Mahershala's out in front. I think Moonlight's a film with a lot of love and support, and I think it's going to be hard for him to be taken down. But I think if he is by Patel, it will be one of those things at the end of the night where like, of course, that performance was too small to win the Oscar. So
well, yeah, I mean, we talk about big performances like Denzel. Yes, I think so. And among all the 20 ultimate acting nominees, I mean, I would rank Dev in the top 3 in terms of effort. I mean, he and Emma Stone and a couple of others have really hit every single party, event, reception, breakfast, brunch, dinner, people's homes. I mean, they've been everywhere. So he's a very charming guy. This one category, though, another reason I'm a little skeptical of him winning, and it's lower in my reasons of skepticism. Of the 4 categories, it's the least likely to go younger. They typically, I mean, not that Mahershala is old, he's early 40s, but I mean, they typically go 50s, 60s, 70s, even early 80s. So he'd be the second youngest ever, right, in this category. So that's not typical of them for supporting actor.
But I think most of the time when a younger actor gets in, like Lucas Hedges, that's his breakthrough performance. He didn't get nominated for his breakthrough.
Well, he's helped by the fact that Lucas is in there, actually. They're looking at their ballot going, well, Dev doesn't seem young to me compared to Lucas.
Yeah, I'm just saying as comparison, like when he was 19 in Slumdog Millionaire, he didn't get nominated. They know Dev Patel at least. And I think he, even though not any of them really gives a transformative performance, he does use that Australian accent. So he gets a few bonus points for playing a little bit different from his typical accent.
Well, I'll tell you,
that's a tough accent to pull off too.
Yeah, you would know.
Yeah, it's a tough one to know.
I told him what you and you have to go back and watch the interview I just did with him about a month ago. I told him that you and Rob had both conveyed to me how impressed you were with that. He said he worked on it for months.
And it shows.
Because he's not good. He said he's not good at accents, so he had to really, put the work in. So.
Yeah, and it is a tough one to do because it is sort of close. Like it's sort of an English. I think it's like easier when you're like doing a French accent or an Italian accent. There's more like, I don't know, different way of speaking. And yeah, anyway, it's a tough one to get down. But Chris, you've been on the awards circuit this year, going around various parties, award shows, events, and stuff like that. Do you have any stories? Anything that could be telling?
Or
just something fun, even if it doesn't tell us anything.
Something fun. Ask a Mando question. I'll think about it for a second.
Okay. Yeah. Mullets. Yeah, Amanda, is Viola Davis got this in the bag? Anyway, she loses.
The accountants hate her and change the vote totals. The only way she could lose. Seriously, I just honestly don't.
Everything you would want. I mean, she's in a Best Picture contender. She's a multiple nominee, Emmy winner, Tony winner. She's in the right age range. She's very likable. She's a big TV star. I mean, there's not one thing you go, oh, well, that would be a reason why. And then you throw in the fact that really maybe her strongest competition, Michelle Williams, has a couple or three scenes, might have worked 4 or 5 days on her movie. Not that could win, on another year, but you throw in that against Viola and
I thought Naomi Harris had overtaken her in the odds, but maybe not.
Oh, well, Naomi is in second. Well, the other thing, I mean, I've heard people even calling us to task, why don't you talk more about her category fraud? Well, first of all, I don't believe in category fraud. I believe in campaigning. And secondly, if you were to say there's one star of this movie, one main character, not that movies can't have multiple main characters, but if you said there was only one, it would be Denzel. I mean, everything revolves around him. Even her whole existence and character and dialogue and everything revolves around what he's doing. So I don't have a problem at all either which way she decided to go. I applaud her and her team and Paramount and whoever else made the decision of looking at the landscape and going, lead actress is a bear this year, but supporting's not so bad.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, first of all, people need to remember that in the original version, which ironically had Courtney B. Vance in it, her character was in the featured actress role. So I do think he kind of cast a large enough shadow that you could argue why she should be supporting. And I just want her to win an Oscar.
Yeah, it's so wonderful.
I think
I might quit watching if she loses.
I do think that Davis here is I can see the argument for her in lead. It's a very big performance and consuming performance in the film, particularly towards the end of it. But I've seen much worse. If you want to be against category fraud, I think there are much clearer cut cases of it in the past than Viola Davis. I can see the argument for her in supporting it is more, as Chris said, Denzel's movie. I think is it Haley Steinfeld from True Grit? I think that's your textbook case of a lead performance in a supporting category. And Viola doesn't tick all the boxes that before Haley did that year.
Well, it's not just screen time. What is your? I mean, if you're looking, as I said, it's not just screen time or lines of dialogue or whatever. It's what is your relationship to everything she does in the movie is in reaction to him. Not everything he does in the movie is reaction to her. So that to me, but I would not have complained either way on her because I think it's borderline enough where, okay, she needs to make the call or her people. So, and just to answer your question really quick, I think the most interesting thing to me about everything I go to is funny or serious or however you want to, they know their odds from the biggest person all the way down. I mean, they will, they know their goal. They know where I'm predicting them. Nice to meet you, but why do you have me in third place? Without calling any names or I've had people go, especially in the nomination phase where you've got 40, 50 contenders. what can I do to get up above 100 to 1? That's what I hear. I just Friday night I was in an event and I heard that from.
Yeah, I had 13th hour in sound editing winning. I had to go change my predictions. I'm just kidding. It didn't. I didn't.
So anyway, to answer your question, I knew you have to welcome more people in, but that would be one thing that I think everybody here watching, everybody that predicts, everybody that people are paying attention. Don't. And I've had studio, when I go to meetings and stuff, studio executives, people at the very top, I click on Gold Derby 10 times a day. I want to see, I had a director on last year's circuit say, how did I move up or down when I checked this morning compared to where I checked after lunch? I'm like, well, people, when you're talking about several thousand people and they're making changes, it impacts, where you are. So
I remember when I was down there last year, getting an elevator with Tom O'Neill in the building where you guys work, Chris, and we were going up and we bumped into some of the people on the Spotlight campaign. And they were they were very aware of where they were ranking, and they were in a very tight race with the Revenant, and the elevator chat was all about sort of how are we doing, what do we think, are we going to move up, are we going to move down, and stuff like that. As we were moving up in the elevator.
Ironically, I think if Viola Davis wasn't in this race, I think Octavia Spencer might have had a chance to really kind of sneak in and win Oscar #2 for Hidden Figures, because the race itself was kind of weak to begin with. So she's
one that didn't get in that I thought really, sometimes you go, oh, if they only got in, they really had the material. Greta Gerwig in 20th Century Women, I thought was phenomenal. And, through the whole movie, nice arc, emotion, illness. I mean, just she had a little bit of everything. Funny.
Yeah.
But you can't win if you're not there.
I might just ask Charles Bright and Danny Montgomery to join us. Chris and Amanda, to stay here for now. Okay. Chris, what do you think about the lead actress race? Like we've talked about with the other guys, but where are you leaning on that as of now?
I know Isabel could win. That there's no doubt in my mind that there's a faction that wants her to win, and people are predicting her. But I usually go on history on stuff like this, and since SAG's been around, that's 22 previous years. This was the 23rd. If somebody has won a Globe, a SAG, and a BAFTA, they've won the Oscar. The only exception was Russell Crowe, his second time around, and he got in the big fight backstage at BAFTA, and right when people were voting. So, I mean, there were some real strong reasons. And ironically enough, that was Denzel Washington, picking up the pieces there. So Casey never did that this season. Emma, of course, never did that this season. I just think usually we haven't had a Best Picture winner win an acting award in a couple of years. And normally that does happen. So it seems like it's going to cycle back around this year. Yeah,
that's cool. Any last things you want to talk about, Chris, before we move on to the other guys?
Oh, this has been so much fun. I've been at almost every time you've done one of these in the past 6 months. I've been at the event, so I couldn't join in. So as you can see by the way I'm dressed and not dressed like the rest of you, I decided there was no way I was putting on a tie or a coat today. Anyway, I'll see you all on the post show. Maybe one of us will have a perfect score.
Chris, I do have a question for you before you leave.
Okay.
Okay. What do you have for documentary feature? Because this one is killing me.
Oh, here we go.
Oh, no, I thought you were just saying foreign language. Foreign language is very hard to predict. Before I give you the answer to that, by the way, almost everybody Tom has talked to lately, and then I was sitting in a network executive's office the other day who happens to be an Academy voter. We were talking about other categories, and just out of the blue, because of what Tom was telling me, I said, in my mind, I'm thinking, if he says this one thing, I'm going to switch to this. I said, what do you have for foreign language? He said, oh, I'm not thinking, if he says Man Called Ova, I'm switching, because that's what I've been hearing. He just said, that was my favorite. He said, it's not going to win, but that was my favorite. And that's what we're hearing a lot. Documentary, I'm not a fan of OJ being in there. I'm not a fan of 13th being in there. I think if you're either a TV show or you're a feature film. I don't like them competing at the Oscars and the Emmys, but OJ's won everything, so I've got to think it's going to win. It even won the Spirit Award.
It will break the record set by War and Peace in 1968 for longest film to win an Oscar. because it's
Well,
like
it's not a film. It
500.
was a TV series, but that's,
Well,
you know.
Well, when
It's
the
509 minutes, and
the
that's
man who
400.
made it said he approached it as a film, and then ESPN just broke it down.
Well, then it
But
shouldn't be up at the Emmys this summer.
That would be nice if they took the high road.
It's
and
not his
didn't-
fault. It's not ESPN's fault. It happens every year, but I'm just about sick of it. You should be one thing or another.
It's
I agree.
the longest film ever to win. It will be the longest film ever to win the Oscar, and the longest television series ever to win an Oscar.
I don't know. I'm still like, I put 13th up top because I'm really just conflicted about this. I have no idea where to go with that. I think it's so. Wait, and Chris, you said that the person that you talked to voted for A Man Called Uva.
Yes.
I still think the salesman's going to win. I think they're
Well, I
going to
got
go
the salesman in
political.
first, but as we were sitting there, my eyes glanced over at Marcus. I'm like, if he says "Man Called," I'd heard it so often in the past 7 days. And Pete Hammond was reporting that back, like Oscar voters everywhere he would go. I know it's not going to win, but I voted for Man Called Ova. I'm like, well, if everybody did that, it's going to win.
Yeah.
Especially in a year where it seems when you do have a split like that between, say, Salesman and Tony Erdmann, sometimes it's that passion vote that, you know, puts something else through the middle. So.
Yeah, but Tony Erdmann just seems like it's just collapsed, you know, ever since the actual nomination. It seems like a lot of support for it has just gone. The reality of this, you know, almost 3-hour German comedy, as you said, two words that don't belong together.
Yeah.
It's kind of confounding, especially if you're watching it on a screener. It does not work on a screener.
Well, I heard more than enough people tell me privately, and I think it's fine to say these things as I'm not attaching names. Yeah, I popped that one in, but I didn't make it past the first 45 minutes, or I didn't make it past the first hour. And I've heard it enough where the only reason I didn't take Salesman out, remember our winner last year on the contest said the only reason she didn't flip-flop on Spotlight to other things over the course of those few weeks was she had such good odds on Spotlight, because by the time, you know, everybody was going Big Short, or everybody was going Revenant. And I finally left it alone with the Salesman because I had it before the ban. I thought, you know, he's won for his country before. You know, it's gotten great reviews. So I had it kind of before everybody else did. And sometimes when you do that, you hate to move off of it. So
have you heard people actually say that they've actually watched The Salesman and liked it and voted for it?
Not as many as Man.
I think it's more of Trump just gave it all the momentum it needed to, like, for those people who don't watch these films, who might have abstained from voting.
I had it at first anyway, then the ban happened, and it was like, oh, okay, it's gonna win now.
Yeah,
I do have Man Called Uva in second place.
I just moved it into second.
Well, you heard it here on the pre-show. If it happens to be the big surprise of the night, I heard enough people saying it that we should have known.
Yeah,
and I'll exit out. I've got blog items to write, so.
Yeah, see, Chris. As Chris is logging out, Daniel, do you want to weigh in on the foreign language race?
Yeah, I try not to focus too much on anecdotes. You know, as I like to say, the plural of anecdote is not data. So hearing people every once in a while say, you know, oh, it's going to be a man called Uva. That could be telling. It could be telling.
Quickly, Daniel, to be fair, I was chatting with someone the other week at a party, and he said that anecdotal evidence was really, really helpful.
Can be. I mean, it certainly worked last year. I know Tom, when he made his big switch to Spotlight, a lot of that was based on anecdotal evidence. I'm hearing, you know, Spotlight's working the town, and I'm hearing from a lot of people they're voting for Spotlight. But from my perspective, I just can't rely on it enough to put my my prediction behind it. So I'm going with The Salesman because it feels like in a political year, and not just the ban, but the Muslim travel ban, but also, you know, Asghar Farhadi has been very vocal ever since then about being opposed to the ban and the Trump administration. It was after voting closed, but he spoke at a rally on Friday. via a video. So it just feels like that's a good place to. I believe it's a category where there's not a clear, obvious front runner there. Tony Erdmann was the early front runner, but it's a weird movie to win Best Foreign Language a lot, actually. And Man Called Uva, it could, but if this is being voted on by a number of people who haven't seen the films, and I have a feeling it is, then those votes are going to go to Salesman. And people who have seen Man Called Uva might vote for Man Called Uva, but I'm not sure, if more casual Oscar voters or have maybe not seen everything or maybe not seen any of them, but they know the story behind, The Salesman of what's recently happened, that's going to get the check.
It got mentioned, like that first travel ban, like every other story was this Oscar-winning director cannot come. So I think I agree with you, Daniel. He's got enough press to, and I'm sure there's only like 200 people who've seen all 5 of these films who could objectively weigh them for their art.
And what about the documentary feature category? Because I'm still so on the fence about what to do with this.
It seems like OJ's year as a subject matter.
Yeah, I'm not really. I mean, documentary, those categories go in weird directions from time to time, but I'm not really agonizing over that one. It just feels like OJ has won everything. It's something that a lot of voters, I think, will have likely to have seen. Those steak eaters who are sports fans, those people who were just curious about the subject matter after The People versus O.J. Simpson, and having lived through it, members of the Academy, I'm sure, remember that time very well. Even though it's the longest, so you would think of all the films, people to have seen, that would be the least likely for someone to have seen all of. But I think the curiosity behind it and the subject matter behind it, it's going to be the one that had the most eyeballs. That and 13th. I don't. As much as I love 13th, I don't think 13th is going to have quite as much momentum. I think we would have seen it by now. It would have won more by now. I think not People versus OJ. OJ Made in America.
Yeah. Sarah Paulson's also very good in it.
Yeah.
So, okay,
I'm watching her getting interviewed as.
So yeah, at the beginning of the day, I had OJ in the top spot, and then like 2 hours ago I switched it to 13th, and now I'm back with OJ in the top spot.
Just go with OJ. I think it's kind of been his year as a subject matter. I mean,
it personally hasn't been his year, but being in jail and everything. But
we've all spent like 18 hours of our time watching stuff about OJ Simpson,
and it's been great.
I know, it's been very fascinating.
And a lot more than that, actually, if you count all the awards that we've won, all the accepted on behalf of people who have won for those projects. So it's it's been an OJ kind of year.
Like in documentary, if we were to see an upset, like part of me would like look to sort of Life Animated in the sense that it's about the power of movies. It's a very personal story about someone overcoming a disability. And it sort of stands out from the other more sort of politically charged films in the lineup. I don't think it's going to win, but because like OJ's sort of out in front, I'm sort of looking to, if it did get upset, what would be the film to do that? And I think Life Animated has this sort of very emotional core to it that maybe the other films lack a bit. Charles.
It does, but movies about, Hollywood actually don't really win documentary prizes. They sometimes get nominated, but like a couple of years ago, we had the brilliant movie about Roger Ebert, Life Itself.
From the guys who directed Hoop Dreams, so they were very overdue.
They have experience. Well, at least at that point, they had experience in it of being passed over at the Oscars. So they couldn't. They didn't even make the qualifying round of it. I guess it was maybe about 20 years ago, a movie called The Battle Over Citizen Kane. This is a documentary about the greatest film ever made, and it draws the parallels between Hearst and Orson Welles. That lost out to something else I can't remember. Showbiz doesn't really usually do well here.
Yeah, but like that being said, like this isn't a film about Hollywood as much as Hollywood's ability to change the life of an ordinary person with a disability.
I think that it's just the year. I mean, I think that's kind of the problem is that the People versus O.J. Simpson and O.J. Made in America have all kind of bled together, and it's been such a water cooler item with the two of them that they passed their biggest hurdle was getting into the category, and now that they were nominated, it's like, okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Congratulations to ESPN on winning your first Oscar. I'm sure NBC will be super jealous.
Yeah.
As they should be. It's a brilliant piece of filmmaking.
It doesn't feel like 7 hours.
I remember I just turned it on demand. It's so weird. We're talking about watching this on our televisions. I know. I turned it on demand on a Sunday night a couple months ago, and I flew through the first 4 episodes, and then I was like, okay, I have to go to bed.
Let's touch on. We're talking about documentary feature. We're talking about foreign language feature. Let's go to animated feature, which is the one category I forgot to talk about in our Golden Globes pre-show. We won't forget it this time. Zootopia's been the front runner all season. It's possibly my favorite film of the year. I love it, but I am worried about Kubo and the Two Strings. Daniel, what do you think?
I'm very, very worried about Kubo and the Two Strings. I'm predicting Zootopia just because it's won the most, and it's won a lot of decent indicators of Best Animated Feature. It won the Annie Award, which is right more often than not, though it's had some pretty big misses. It won the Golden Globe. It won Producers Guild, I believe. And so it's got all of that, and Kubo winning at BAFTA, it might just be an anomaly, but BAFTA does have a really great track record in picking that, and Zootopia was a long time ago. And Kubo was released much more recently. Kubo might be considered sort of like a more sophisticated film in terms of animation that more adults might resonate with, although the subject matter, the themes of Zootopia, I like to call it The Wire with cuddly animals. It's so socially relevant, so I don't think that'll hurt in terms of mature subject matter, but yeah, it's so close.
If it's The Wire, which animal is Omar?
Not Idris Elba, obviously, because that's Stringer Bell.
I think they usually go young in that category, and that's kind of what helps Zootopia. But I think Moana and Kubo having additional Oscar nominations usually is a good sign. Like Ida, who won foreign language film a couple years ago, was nominated for cinematography, so it had wider support.
True, but then you've got something like The White Ribbon, and Pan Labyrinth. Those had other nominations too, and they lost foreign language film. If Kubo were up for screenplay,
in the case of Pan Labyrinth.
Yeah. If Kubo had a screenplay nomination, that would be a done deal. But visual effects, I'm not sure it's going to be a strong teller for animated feature, especially because I don't think a CGI, a fully computer animated film like Zootopia would even have been eligible. The only other time an animated film has ever gotten in was another stop motion film, The Nightmare Before Christmas. So that's not, it's not quite an apples to apples comparison there. And if I think about which film probably got closer to it, it was probably Zootopia.
The visual effects nomination for Kubo scares me more than the BAFTA win.
Yeah.
Like, it actually shows there was another branch at the Academy that was paying attention to that movie and was impressed by that movie. To me is the big red flag. I think I'd be pretty comfortable with Zootopia now if it didn't have that visual effects nomination. But I do agree with you, Daniel, that it doesn't mean that it's going to win by any stretch. Charles, what do you think about the animated feature race?
Well, I'm the cartoon guy. So
yeah,
I just had an article published early this morning showing that there is actually a more reliable check on this than BAFTA, because BAFTA got it wrong once. In all fairness, they went with the one movie that was not nominated at the Academy, but it's the American Film Institute. Since they started doing their AFI awards and releasing a top 10 list of top 10 movies every year. Every time an animated film has gotten on that list, it's gone on to win the Oscar. And that's happened 9 times in the past. And it's not just Pixar movies. That's happened with Happy Feet and going on to win the Oscar. Oh, it's Tom.
Oh, look who's crashing the party. It's Tom O'Neill.
Hold on.
Stealing my thunder, I see.
Yes. So he's getting his mic and stuff sorted. So continue, Charles, while he gets
such a nasty woman he is. Yeah, I'm going to be doing that like 2 years from now. It'll be like, hey, remember that?
You're going for best like chat.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. So they've had that for the past 9 years. Zootopia made it on that list this year. And they went with that movie over Hidden Figures, over Lion, over 2 Best Picture nominees, over there was a bunch of other movies, and they're just not coming to me right now. But you know, there's quite I think it's safe to win here.
Yeah. No, Zootopia, funniest movie of the year, best movie of the year. I'd love to see that win. That's probably the category I'm most invested in, to be honest. Tom O'Neill, what do you want to talk about? It's Oscar night.
I want to talk about this category we're mulling over right now. There's one thing that scares me. Paul Sheehan is picking Kubo. And
he's Canadian.
What is he know? That rascally Canadian.
All right. Then we can that gives us permission to dismiss everything.
Yeah.
Does anyone think Hidden Figures might upset Moonlight and adapted screenplay?
Yes,
I think it's so light.
Yes. It looks just like, come on, what was the...
Precious?
Imitation Game. It's very similar. You know, geniuses behind the scenes, not getting credit for their work, for saving the world. And of course, that had pulled off an upset for screenplay a few years ago. And I think Hidden Figures, there's all this love for it. It's got to pop up someplace, right? And that's the logical place. But yet there's all this love for Moonlight. So I don't know what to. I just went with Moonlight. My own prediction.
If I had the nerve, I would go.
I see more evidence for almost every other film in that category besides Hidden Figures in terms of what's been happening. Yeah, I mean, Moonlight's even beating the original screenplays at the Writers Guild Awards, and Arrival winning adapted at the Writers Guild and at the Critics' Choice Awards, and Lion won at the BAFTA Awards, and Hidden Figures has had chances. And it hasn't. Even Fences might have a better shot because it does have the prestige of Pulitzer Prize winner August Wilson adapting screenplay and winning posthumously. He would be, and it's the wordiest screenplay certainly. So I honestly, you know, it's a big hit, but I don't see a case for Hidden Figures for adapted screenplay. I think we would have seen that hit by now.
All right,
but I think wider to the Academy, that might be what helps it win something like screenplay. The fact that it's not just writers voting, but everyone's voting. And everyone loves that movie.
Our pal Dave Karger has a rule in the Screenplay Awards. He says that they're almost always won by a nominee that has only one person listed. So who would benefit this year from that? In other words, if there are 2 or 3 people listed for screenplay, forget it. He said those tend not to win. He said the best rule of thumb in these categories is look for solo nominees.
Well, that's a rival. Eric Heiserer is the sole nominee on that one. Moonlight has 2, Hidden Figures 2. Although August Wilson, that's another one. Yeah. So the only ones who would be knocked out of, you know, if that theory holds, are Hidden Figures and Moonlight.
The 2 front runners.
Yeah.
The only one.
Tom agrees with me, so I'll take that as a semi-win.
Yeah. Yeah, don't count Arrival out. I guess we've seen some sort of sci-fi films sort of take out screenplay, like Her and things in the past. So
Her was an original screenplay.
Well, sorry?
That was an original screenplay.
That's true.
It kind of fit that quirky, the lobster kind of Eternal Sunshine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Tom, what are you in most suspense about?
I think all the politics, you know, what's going to happen. Remember when Michael Moore was raging, you know, shame on you, Mr. Bush, shame on you, and the Oscars cut him off. They claim they're not going to do it this year. They're going to let those moments play out. So we know it's going to be the most political Oscars in many, many years, maybe ever. And if you look over the winners list, you might go, oh, okay, well, there aren't a lot of political people there, firebrands, anarchists that will likely win. But if you look back through Oscar history, and I was just on MSNBC talking about this, that the presenters caused the most problems. If you remember Eddie Murphy taking over the stage for Best Picture and suddenly going on a tantrum about how Black Americans are treated, or Richard Gere's fiasco the one year where he invited everyone to join him in meditation and tell China to get out of Tibet. And it's a moment still ridiculed in Oscar history. And Susan Sarandon, Tim Robbins, et cetera, et cetera. Meryl Streep's not going to win tonight, but she's going to be a presenter. Samuel L. Jackson is a presenter. Chris just gave me his list of potential troublemakers. I know. I think this is what we're all looking for. Let's be honest here, right?
Tom, I asked this at the beginning of the show. Do you think there'll be more wins for La La Land or references to Trump tonight?
References to Trump, yeah, by far.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
The most it can win is 13, and it's not going to win Best Actor, so that knocks it down to 12. So I think we'll definitely get more references to Trump.
That's good.
Although I'm worried it might lose an original song. I don't know that one.
Let's talk about original song. Amanda, who do you think's going to beat it?
I think what helps La La Land is that it doesn't have one main competitor. It has two, where there's probably people who would want to see Justin Timberlake's song win because it is probably the most well-known of all of them. And then there's probably the traditionalists who are going to go for the Lin-Manuel Miranda, Moana, Disney classic kind of song. But I don't know. I don't think Justin Timberlake's going to win this.
But I've had Moana's song predicted. Just 'cause I think there is a lot of appeal in seeing Lin-Manuel Miranda win, and we have seen Disney musical songs do well in the past.
Robert Lopez
Daniel,
doesn't
do you have
want
an
him to
opinion
win.
on that?
Yeah, but it's all about La La Land. La La will win, unfortunately for the wrong song, but that's always the case at the Oscars, right?
Well, the right song isn't even nominated.
Yeah, I would say the opening number is its best number.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. Yeah, that should be up.
That would have been a great number to see produced on the stage.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen on the stage tonight? I'm ashamed I don't know the rest of this, but I heard Ryan Gosling is not going to dance. Who's going to dance with Emma?
I don't think Emma's dancing either.
Neither of them are performing. Who's performing with John Legend?
Oh,
Songs are.
Oh,
We'll never know.
Okay. So yeah, maybe I will switch to City of Stars. It's just such a big year for La La Land. I've done it. So I'll be annoyed being on Lin-Manuel all season.
Robert Lopez doesn't want him to win because then he breaks his record.
Yeah.
Probably wants to hold on to that one a little while longer.
Yeah. Tom, do you think Emma Stone's got actress in the bag?
No, not at all. I was at the Indie Spirits yesterday, and I talked to a lot of Oscar voters who have voted for Isabelle Huppert. The problem is that those of us on the ground here in LA are talking to the wrong people. We're not talking to the steak eaters out in the valley who edit the films and handle the sound engineering and the rest of it. That's half of the Academy. We keep running into the same members of the writers branch, actors branch, producers branch, PR branch, and they're of course all have their own. They're the kind of Isabelle Huppert voter. I'm not sure that when you get into the steak eaters, that's the case. But I think the race is fairly competitive.
Yeah, no, I agree. Can anyone other than Isabelle and Emma Stone win, Tom, in your opinion?
No.
It's crystallized into a 2-horse race. Yeah.
And we know that's tough
Cool.
for you to say, Tom, because we know how much you loved Jackie.
I know. What happened to Jackie?
I love that movie.
It's fat. Yeah, it really lost momentum throughout the season.
I asked a couple of Oscar voters that, and they were both female, and they both said oh, we don't like that Jackie. Oh, in other words, they were punishing the movie for being honest, for showing her drunk, chain smoking, popping pills, and saying honest things about her marriage. And really, it was people selfishly evaluate a movie that way, not on its real merits, not on the artistic chances it took, but whether or not they like that Jackie. Isn't that pitiful?
Yeah. Let's do a bit of a. Do you have any good stories this year, Tom, from the award circuit, from all the events and things you've been going to?
Wow, a lot, but I can't think of them right now.
Well, if you think of one, let us know. Let's race around a few of the categories we haven't touched on yet. Cinematography. La La Land. Does someone have a dissenting opinion? Something they think could upset there?
I'm wary of Arrival, but I think
Okay.
La La Land's pretty safe there.
Okay.
I think there's no. It's Moonlight also had really good cinematography. It won the cinematography award at the Spirit Awards last night. But the fact that there's no just one competitor that is like a decent that you can say that's the alternative, I think helps La La Land.
Yeah, there's not something that you're like, oh my God, did you see the cinematography in this film this year where regardless of the best picture race or something, you could see how it won or would win.
Mm. What about in the editing race? La La Land. Like, it's not necessarily the kind of film that you would think is a lock for editing.
But Best Picture usually wins an editing award, and that's
Yes.
why we're all choosing it. But I think you're right to call attention to it. There's a strong possibility of an upset here.
What upsets it?
Usually the most shaky camera one wins, right? So what would that be among the nominees? I don't have those in front of me.
Arrival.
Well, we've got Hacksaw Ridge, Arrival, Moonlight, and Hell or High Water.
I think
So
Hacksaw Ridge
Hacksaw would be the most shaky camera one, right?
a lot of edits. That would be the most obvious one, but we've seen, the Arrival one at the Ace Eddie Awards, and so, it's
So did
it's the
La
same
La.
problem. But it's the same problem as the cinematography. One competitor, it has two, and so I don't think there's going to be enough support that gathers around either of them to beat La La Land, which doesn't necessarily have the showiest editing, but especially if the last impression, that ending, is definitely the showiest editing in the entire film, and some of those montages as time passes and these two are in love and dancing, and it's showy enough that I think people who are just checking boxes are going to be like, oh, La La Land, that was a musical. It seemed to have nice editing, and they just check it off along with everything else. Because I don't think Arrival.
And the winner did the editing for Whiplash, so he's going to be a very young two-time Oscar winner.
And well, that's the thing. It's just like what Daniel was saying. It's very much similar to, because I remember when I saw Whiplash, and it's one of those moments where everything a film editor does became crystal clear to me in that last scene. And I was just like, because I was so blown away by it. And I was like, that guy's going to win an Oscar for editing. And now he's on the precipice of possibly winning his second for, again, with like what Daniel was saying, that last part of the film, how the editing is really showy there. I would say Moonlight is also one of those very serious contenders in this. I don't think it's going to win, but I mean, you're stringing together, three areas of this one single character storyline. Kind of similar to what the editors did with Boyhood, in terms of that long amount of time. But I still think
all this. What is all this Moonlight? Is wishful thinking. Everyone loves Moonlight, so they keep. The last thing you think of is Moonlight. Great editing. Come on, Charlie.
I thought that when I saw the movie, but I'm me. So what does that tell you?
I'm keeping La La Land in there, but I'm very wary of Arrival, actually. And I wonder if in some of these categories, like the sound mixing, sound editing, and editing, whether Arrival might surprise at 1 or 2, or maybe could do quite well in those races, because I think it's sort of simmering at the edge of it. Yeah,
it is a very technical film.
Yeah. The big question is, how broad is the love for La La Land? Like, we know it's the Academy's favorite film of the year. How much do they love it? How many things are they going to throw at it?
And that's the key question here, because The Academy we know is 70% male. They're over the age of 60. They're 70% white, and the movie appeals to people of a more romantic spirit than the kind of macho old dude in the Academy. So yeah, it may not translate there in a way that it has elsewhere in the guilds, for example.
Yeah, it's very hard with a Hacksaw Ridge and an Arrival, two films that could both be quite strong in those categories. Like last year, I sort of had in my head, I know I don't have a clue who's winning Best Picture, and director's still a bit. Director, we sort of knew who that was going, but the picture's still up in the air. But I thought I'm pretty sure that the tech awards are all going to go to Mad Max. Like sort of that's the one that those sort of branch, like in those categories it's going to go. This year I sort of could see Arrival getting quite a few. I could see Hacksaw Ridge getting quite a few, or I could just see La La Land going on a bit of a sweep.
And Arrival could win production design because it is one of those where they've created these worlds, and Avatar won production design because of course they created those caves and all the CGI. So
yeah,
Arrival could sneak in there in some of those categories if it emerges as the second choice or as the alternative choice. And it is a movie about communication, so it definitely could take sound editing.
Yeah. What do people think about the production design race? I've got La La Land in my spot. Daniel?
Yeah, I've got La La Land. It doesn't seem like it has much competition to me in terms of what else is nominated. It's unusual for us to be talking about a contemporary film this strongly for like production design and costume design and that sort of thing. But I think it's struck in the right year. There's no one alternative in that category that seems like it's emerged as a strong alternative.
Well, didn't Fantastic Beasts emerge at BAFTA?
Kind of, but
it won BAFTA, in other words, I'm saying. And our friend Paul, who's often right and often kicks all the butts around here with his predictions, is picking Fantastic Beasts. At least he was 10 minutes ago. It's his hand on the prediction center, and often he'll make his last minute switches and then turn it off.
So they can influence Paul's choices.
I know, and I've been accusing him for days. I said, "You're waiting to the very last moment to ditch that Fantastic Beasts thing for production design, aren't you?" And then he's like Tariq Khan the other day said, "Well, Paul's picking Fantastic Beasts for production design, so maybe I'll pick it too." And I warned him. I said, "This is often a little trick of Paul, who's afraid of people stealing his predictions. So then he will put something like that out there and then justify it by the BAFTA thing, and then realize and then know it was crazy all along and pull it back and then shut off the prediction center."
Yeah,
I think the Harry Potter movies have done okay at the BAFTAs. I think their problem has always been at the Oscars. So
they've never won
I don't get this. Harry Potter's a contemporary film and Fantastic Beasts is a period film. I think like in those tech races, it's a
and why hasn't it won anything? It's never won sound X. It's never won costumes, makeup. It's been nominated.
Well, I'm not predicting it to win a lot of those categories. I'm just predicting it to win costumes. And I think period costumes do better than contemporary costumes. I'm not predicting it for visual effects and sound mixing and sound editing.
Well, I'm just saying it. Why isn't it the Harry Potter and 8 films won 1 Oscar? I just have no. I can't pick
good. The costumes or production design weren't as good.
I can't pick it in a category when it's never won, and we have 8 films and it's number 9 in
Well, we'll see. It probably won't win any of these awards, and and it'll be a moot point. I'm going to ask who else needs to join the chat. We've got Marcus Dixon. Marcus Dixon. Yes, Tom O'Brien and Tony Roos. You can join, and then I'll ask.
I'm going to sign off and get ready for the Oscars. Thanks, everybody. Great job.
Okay. Have a good night, Tom. Well, hopefully you pop into the post show.
Yes, definitely will. Thanks.
Cool. Let's go. We've got about 4 categories we haven't talked about yet, so we're doing okay. Makeup and hair. 3-horse race. Star Trek Beyond Suicide Squad and A Man Called Over. Daniel, take us through this.
This is a weird category that like a lot of times this is the de facto kind of, if a Best Picture nominee is in here or a film that has broad support generally gets in here, it's like, oh, well, so that by default, like Dallas Buyers Club winning with like a $200 makeup budget that I don't know, maybe they went to Sephora one day and they supplied the makeup for that entire film.
You're not going to get a lot for $200 at Sephora, but okay.
That's true. This is a weird circumstance where none of these films have a lot of broad support. You have, A Man Called Ova is nominated for Best Foreign Language Film, but of course Star Trek Beyond and Suicide Squad weren't eligible there, so it's not really an even comparison there. I'm going with Star Trek Beyond because it has the combination of showy makeup effects. I think it deserves this one. And it's Suicide Squad also has showy effects, but it's less respected generally. So I think a lot of people will be and Star Trek in 2009 actually won makeup too. So it already has a track record. So in a category where you're trying to figure out what film they like the best out of films that they really don't like all that much anywhere else, my best guess is Star Trek.
Yeah, like I think Harley Quinn's makeup and hair was one of the sort of best of the year, and I think her performance and the way she looked were saved the film from being horrible. But I do agree with you, Daniel. I think Star Trek's the go. Do you have any final thoughts, Charles, before I ask you to leave?
The idea of calling Suicide Squad an Academy Award-winning movie makes me want to up my Zoloft.
There are worse Academy Award-winning movies.
True. Pearl Harbor, The Reader. Anyhow.
Yes.
I'm with Daniel on this. I got Star Trek Beyond out front. As for before I leave, just I've been back and forth on the shorts also, but I decided to go with White Helmets for documentary short, Piper for animated short, and Time Code for live action. And we'll see how wrong I am, even after I have seen all of them and endlessly debated myself on this. We'll just see how that goes.
Yeah. No. Very good. Okay. Thanks, Charles. And Amanda, do you have a last thought?
It's going to be interesting to see how big the sweep is. If it doesn't lose anything but one best song thing along the way, I'm going to be like, oh God, Ryan Gosling is about to win Best Actor.
Yeah.
That'll be my new fear as the night goes on. But it's going to be a fun night.
Yeah.
It's Oscar Sunday.
Thanks, man. And Daniel, one last thought.
One last thought. I should admit that just before I came on here, I switched back to Casey Affleck for Best Actor, just because the BAFTA snub of Denzel. I just can't shake it. Like as Casey Affleck says in Manchester by the Sea, I just can't beat it. The fact that and not just Denzel's snub at BAFTA, but the fact that Viola was nominated and won. So it's not like radar like some of his other films that haven't been nominated, and in any other year when the Best Actor nominee has been eligible for BAFTA, the Best Actor winner at the Oscars has been eligible at BAFTA, they've generally gotten in. Like I think the last time might have been Denzel, so I can't really rule out that stat, but I'll be happy if I'm wrong because I'm actually rooting for Denzel. So I just wanted to be on the record, so if Casey wins, no one's going to be like, oh, you got that wrong. It's like, no, I actually switched and got that right. Or vice versa.
Well, yeah, really good. Oh, and you're on the record if Denzel wins of being wrong. So
exactly. Keeping me honest really is
yes.
the whole.
And on that, thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Amanda. Thanks, Charles. And now we've got
and Tony, Molly
and
Shannon.
Mark.
So happy for her.
Who are you happy for, Charles?
Molly Shannon. Won at Indie Spirit last night. So deserved.
She should have been nominated for an Oscar for that movie, but that's another story.
That's a whole nother chat.
See you guys.
Bye.
Have a good one. Okay, we're here with Tony and Marcus. We've got a few more categories to break down, guys, and then we can have a bit of a free-for-all. How you going, Marcus, by the way?
Good. I'm smiling right now because I'm going to get 100% right. I'm very, very happy. This is the first time I'm ever going to get 100 right. So yeah, go ahead and copy mine if you guys want to. I think you can still make predictions. Last I checked, let me check right now. It will be. Well, we will be shutting it off.
Ago.
Oh, okay. Yes. Never mind. You cannot make any more changes.
Oh, has it been closed?
Yes.
Marcus, well, you're right about one thing. This would be the first time you've got 100% at the Oscars.
Yes. And
so let's talk about Tony. You having a good night? You got a glass of wine there. You ready for the show?
Always ready. Although I also always have a glass of wine.
And since we've been predicting Ickle Derby, no one has ever gotten 100%. Some people have got very close. They've missed one. They've missed two, but no one has. And I wonder if this year, jokes aside, I wonder if this year someone will get 100. I hope so.
That would be cool. Whether it's you or someone else, that would be cool.
It won't be me. No.
I think it would have been you until you changed back to Casey Affleck.
I did a few days ago. I decided to. It's the smart thing to do, right?
Casey Affleck.
Yeah, Casey Affleck has won every single thing except for SAG. Denzel has lost every single thing. He didn't even win any of those critics awards, except for SAG is the only one. And you know why he won SAG, right? Because a lot of news outlets, including ours and Variety and Deadline, they really hammered the fact that he had never won a SAG, and that did get into the mindset of these voters.
I think something we haven't talked enough about Denzel is it is pretty hard to win a third Oscar for acting. Like, not many people have won 3 Oscars for acting. We've seen a few recently with Daniel Day-Lewis and Meryl Streep, so maybe it's not as big a thing as it could have been in the past, but that doesn't be scared. I'm sticking with Denzel, though, because I just think he's the actor. It's a performance that's the meatier performance, the showier performance on one hand, and on the other hand, I think in the industry he's very respected and a bit more of your veteran sort of actor. So I just think those two things, and maybe in a response to Oscar So White last year, like I think sort of it might be a good factors all converging for Denzel this year. And Manchester by the Sea, I think, is a film that's gone down in momentum in the past sort of month or so.
And the other
not
thing
hugely, but just a little bit. Tony, what do you think?
Well, the thing with Denzel, and I'm going to quote our guru, Mr. O'Neill, who says the Oscars are not about who gives the best anything. It's about who they like. And if it's a choice between Affleck and Washington, who is more likable? Who do they want to give a bigger hug to? I don't think it's going to be Affleck. I think it's going to be Washington. He's got the status of he's Denzel Washington, and winning a Tony for the role, directing it himself. It's an actor's showcase, and I just think that there are extenuating factors that voters have reported that they specifically didn't vote for Casey because of that, because of those extenuating factors. And I think that just pushes Denzel just slightly over the edge.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've switched in my mind. Every day I switch in my mind. But, I officially made the switch a few days ago, and I stuck with Casey. And I guess we'll see what happens. I mean, legitimately, there are reasons for both of them to win. So it's not like like the Viola Davis category. If you pick anyone else other than Viola Davis, you are officially insane. This, you could really see either of them, winning, taking that trophy in their hand and going up on that stage.
Yeah, and when was the last time that such a restrained performance won in Best Actor? Best Actor is not necessarily a big restrained category. There's always some big aspect to the characters, whether it's Anthony Hopkins playing an over-the-top serial killer in Silence of the Lambs, or something seemingly quieter, like, say, Colin Firth in The King's Speech, but he's got the stuttering and he's got the big emotional scenes. And Casey's is just so internal. I love Manchester by the Sea. I love Casey Affleck's performance, but I just feel like Denzel is the one that they like tonight.
I do think, Denzel has a big performance. To be fair, I do think Casey's scene with Michelle Williams towards the end of the film is as good as anything Denzel Washington does in Fences. But I really like it. But I actually was really impressed by both of those performances. They're both so different and really, really strong. So anyway, can we talk about score for a second? We haven't touched on that one yet. We probably should have talked about that when we talk about songs, because they're both musical things. But anyway, La La Land, can anything beat it?
No, I don't think so. I think this is one of the 2 categories at Gold Derby where all 30 experts are unanimous. The other one is Viola Davis.
What about Passengers? Could that upset?
No. One day Thomas Newman will win an Oscar, and it's not going to be this year, Thomas, and I think you know that. But someday he will, and he's an exceptional composer, and I hope he gets. I'm sure he's already composed a few other movies since Passengers, so maybe one of those next year will be nominated.
He's probably composed a couple just in the time we've been talking about it.
Yeah.
I think we need an Oscar ceremony where both Thomas Newman and Roger Deakins win in the same year.
Yeah.
And that would be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think there's only one category we haven't talked about yet on this show. Do the Oscars start on the hour or in 30 minutes?
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Okay, good. We can run a couple minutes long. We don't have to end right on 12. So
I can refill.
So, and this is quite, I think, a good race to sort of talk about. Best visual effects.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have any Best Picture nominees nominated here, so we don't need to worry about that whole part of the discussion. Who's going to win Best Visual Effects? We've got The Jungle Book, Rogue One, Doctor Strange, Kubo and the Two Strings, and Deepwater Horizon.
I have The Jungle Book because it's the most best picture-y film of those 5. It's the one that feels like that could be a Best Picture winner. And the whole movie.
Wait, The Jungle Book could be a Best Picture winner.
Sorry, nominee. It could be. Sorry, but the whole movie is a big visual effect. I mean, you have the boy; he's real. At least I think so. But everything else is fabricated, and it's beautifully done. And some people are going with Kubo and the Two Strings, which I get that, but I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I completely agree. Jungle Book was one of my favorite movies of the year, and a completely unexpected one. Disney remaking an animated movie, which now apparently they're going to do every 2 weeks. But it was a surprising achievement, and then I didn't find out until after I saw the film that all of that stuff was basically computer generated, that the boy was the only real thing in the movie. So I think that movie got a lot of box office, it got a lot of critical acclaim. Kubo, for as much as everybody's talking about it right now, what everybody is not really remembering is that Kubo kind of came and went. It wasn't until after it kind of left theaters that people, started talking about it. So I'm not sure how many of the Academy at large has seen Kubo. I think they've probably seen The Jungle Book more, and The Jungle Book just seems like a more total achievement in visual effects.
And I think there might be a mindset of not wanting to award an animated film in this category. It's sort of so I know sometimes being different is a good thing because it stands out, but it also might seem to be it doesn't really belong here. It makes more sense to vote for a Star Wars or a Jungle Book, a film that we can see what the visual effects are and what the non-visual effects part of it. I think with the animated films, what about Kubo and Two Strings is animation, and what about it is visual effects?
Yeah, it's confusing.
It's confusing for voters. It's confusing for me. So I'm not saying, these stupid voters who are confused. I don't know. I wonder if The Jungle Book, if you guys were saying with that film that you felt, you don't even realize what the visual effects are, if they might not even give it enough credit. They might go, oh, that's a real jungle, that's a real tree, I'm just looking at the tiger, or what, if they're not looking at enough there. But no, I think Jungle Book's probably got it. But I do think I wouldn't discount Star Wars Rogue One. That was a really good film, and it was really accessible for non-Star Wars fans. It was a pretty self-contained film, and it's got lasers and explosions and spaceships and things that are very special effects-y.
I predicted Star Wars last year, and of course Ex Machina won, and one of the biggest upsets I can ever remember, and so I'm not going to go down that route again.
Okay, you fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, Marcus Dixon. Yeah. Okay, cool, guys. Let's spend another about 5 minutes chatting. What are our big thoughts for the Oscars today? I think we have covered all 21 categories in the past 2 hours, so we can now have a bit of a free for all. Tony, what are you most excited for tonight?
I'm excited to see how many La La Land will win. A lot of people are thinking 10 or 11. I'm actually being a little more conservative. I have 9. But I mean, this movie is just so beloved. It's not just going to win Best Picture. It's going to win Emmy Awards. It's going to win Grammy. Like, that's a joke. But this movie is just, how could it not win at least 8?
When they do La La Land the musical, the Tony race will be over as well. The stage musical.
Right. Yeah.
I'm really just looking forward to see what Kimmel does. I thought he was a spectacular Emmys host, and now with even so much more material to work with, it'll be interesting to see, because he can be kind of a cutting comedian. It'll be interesting to see if he goes full bore as an Oscar host, or whether he kind of reins it in a little bit. I have a feeling he's not going to rein it in that much. And kudos to him if he goes that direction. So I'm interested to see these it'd be interesting to see if this show falls into some of the same traps it usually falls into, with the overdoing of montages, and now we're going to have a special segment on this. They never seem to learn not to do those. So
they're just time wasters. No one cares.
And a silly kind of thing. I'm a sucker for a good standing ovation, so I'm interested to see how many winners will receive them. I'm interested to see what clips they play for the acting nominees, or how, if they decide to do anything interesting with how the actor nominees are presented.
Well, we know which clip Michelle Williams will be shown in, because she's only in like 2 scenes. Yeah.
It'd be interesting.
The scene where Casey Affleck kisses her on the bed.
No, not that
one. To see if they show a different Viola clip than what's been shown at every other award show, because she does have more than that.
Right, the one that was in the trailer where she's all snotty.
Yeah.
I think they should just show a clip of How to Get Away with Murder, and boost the ratings for that. It's on ABC after all.
Yeah, that wig scene was very good, Marcus.
The wig scene is epic.
For Michelle?
Yeah,
no, for Viola.
I just remember how much he talked about that wig scene the year.
The wig scene. Yes, the wig scene.
Yeah.
The wig scene is epic. It's everything.
Yeah, I was very high on the wig scene 2 years ago.
I do think Kimmel's in an interesting position. I think if you win the Oscar and you want to say something political, just say it. This is your moment. You've won. Whatever you want to talk about. If you want to raise awareness for a particular political cause or issue, that should be all right. I think presenters can be a bit cheeky and sneak in little messages that they want. Kimmel's meant to frame the whole evening, and there is a sort of a part of his role to draw attention to the films that are nominated. I think, and draw attention to the year in cinema. And he sort of got an interesting walk to line where it's sort of if he didn't talk about Trump, if he didn't talk about the political stuff, it would seem very irrelevant and very sort of boring. But at the same time, he doesn't want to talk all about that, because he should be talking about Moonlight, and he should be talking about La La Land, and he should be talking about the actual movies that we're there to celebrate, or they're there to celebrate tonight.
Speaking of political speeches, Meryl Streep will be a presenter.
Oh, beat me to it. I was going to say.
I think she's going to give such a good speech that Donald Trump is going to say, "Wow, she's right, and he's going to completely change the error of his ways from now on, and that's the power of Meryl. Or not. Or not.
Boy,
I'm sure he's going to stay the same.
Marcus Dixon. Yeah.
It's a shame that we're going to have to wait until, the last, I think the third to last category is Best Actor. And I think we're all going to be kind of sitting on our hands and biting our nails and, seeing what happens there. Because that's such an exciting race.
That's the one acting race where I don't know what's going to happen. I think the other three are pretty locked up.
Yeah. I just going through my predictions, and I think I predicted La La Land to win 10, which is a little higher than I'm sort of comfortable. Like, if you asked me just before I counted it all up how many, I would have said what you said, Marcus, 9. But I'm actually predicting it in 10. So that's sort of, I guess, the number I think it'll land on.
I think I have it at either 9 or 10. I have it winning screenplay, so.
Yeah, I have it in screenplay too. So I think this is really interesting. The last 2 or 3 years of the Oscars, we've had suspense over what's going to win Best Picture. Is it Spotlight or The Revenant or maybe The Big Short? Is it Gravity or 12 Years a Slave? And is it Birdman or Boyhood? This year we know what's winning Best Picture, but we've got really no idea how many it's going to win.
Right.
Like it could, in theory, win 6. It could win 12. Like, we just don't know.
And what's the threshold at which we say La La Land underperformed?
Ooh, good question. 7? If it gets 7, we'll say, La La Land didn't live up to the hype.
Yeah,
or is that number too low?
7 though.
Yeah, I could.
Like those sound awards could easily go Hacksaw Ridge or Arrival's way. Same with editing, screenplay. It could lose. Emma Stone could lose. I don't think it'll lose all these things, but it's not a lock in at least in half of its categories. So
yeah,
it's going to be really interesting.
I'm still worried about Best Actress.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that La La Land will underperform with 6. And that'll be more Oscars than most Best Pictures have won in the past sort of 5 or 10 years.
Well, hello, the Spotlight 2.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, a bad night for La La Land will be a better night for most films and most Best Picture winners.
That's insane.
Yeah. So, this film really came in the... I think it could have won Best Picture other years. I think it came in a really good year to win a lot of Oscars.
And I think that's the lesson of La La Land is, would La La Land have won in other years? Probably. But because it came right at a time where people wanted something happy and something joyous and something that made them just forget about everything going on in the outside world for a while, people have such good feelings for it. And I think the timing of this film, it has as much to do, if not more to do, with its success than anything else.
Even my cat, Mrs. Featherbottom, she has picked La La Land for Best Picture.
What did you do? What did you do, Mark?
I saw that picture. I just
posters around the room. How did she pick it?
She used both paws to touch the DVD.
Okay.
She calls it Meow Meow Land.
Okay,
she's so
very
cute.
good.
Yeah. So I think she's like the new what's the groundhog's name? Punxsutawney Phil.
Okay.
There's also an octopus that predicts Soccer World Cup matches and things. So she's got some competition for these.
So we'll call her future winner Featherbottom or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes. I like
Marcus,
it.
you're frightening me.
So what did she pick? La La Land, did you say?
Yeah, she calls it Meow Meow Land.
Okay, very good. Really not for a cat. She's not going on a limb.
No, she is picking Ryan Gosling though, which surprises me.
Oh, okay. She has gone on a limb for that one. So
that's why her paws were like right over his head.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm going to plug my follow me on Facebook if you want to see the photo. So plug myself here.
It's just about the cutest thing in mankind.
Very cool. What? Yeah. I think also, like, I do think La La Land has benefited from there not being a Gravity this year, or not be. And I'm not saying La La Land would, like, Gravity didn't win Best Picture, but that was a lock for so many of those technical categories that year.
And Mad Max.
Mad Max, I think if Mad Max had come out this year, it probably still would have won the awards it won last year, or at least most of them. Maybe I can't remember exactly all the categories it won, but yeah. So I think La La Land, it's the perfect year, as Tony said, for a film that is something hopeful and fun and an escape, but it's also not run into one of those just technical behemoths like Mad Max.
I think if Arrival had maybe opened a little bit later, I was late to the Arrival party, and then I've watched it 3 times. So I'm kind of obsessed. But I think I think Arrival would have been a bigger alternative. I think maybe if it had opened a little bit later.
That is interesting.
Arrival. My favorite movie of the year was Arrival. La La Land.
Rob LeCurie is a big fan too.
Yeah, it's my number 2.
Anyway, guys, this is one last thought about the Oscars before we sign off and get ready for the big show.
I just want to do well in my predictions. We've all thought so hard about our predictions for the past 2 or 3 months. Not all of us are predicting the same things in a lot of these categories. So one of us is going to end up doing really well, and one of us is going to end up not doing so well. So I hope I'm somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I texted Marcus last night and was like, Casey or Denzel, where am I going here? I mean, like, we do this where we have these panicky sessions. Like, are you doing this for sound editing or this for sound mixing? And I think it's just now time to just let it go and let the chips fall where they may, and be prepared for either incredible boasting or incredible ridicule.
Yeah,
I'm prepared for both.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and yeah, it's gonna be I've never been less confident in my predictions in the past 3 years, but I've also never been more confident in my Best Picture prediction in the last 3 years as well. So it's sort of like the final category of the night I don't need to worry about for the first time in years, but all my other categories I'm so less confident than I've ever been. So I think it's going to be a bad year for me, probably.
Which is why I'm kind of glad that they're holding actor and actress till the very end, right before Best Picture.
Yeah. If you had to guess right now, how many are you going to get right out of 24? I'm guessing I'll get 21.
I usually get about 18 or 19, so I'm going to be conservative and say 20, because I actually feel good about a lot of mine, which could be a good or a bad thing. So I'm going to say 20.
I'm going to say 16, but I usually aim for 20. Like, I think if you get 20 plus, that's a good night.
I mean, the shorts are going to screw us all up or make us one of those.
Yeah, and I just don't know if I pick La La Land in the right categories and all that sort of thing. I'm last year I think I thought I'd get about 20 right. I don't think I was too far off. This year I think it might be 16.
Yeah, last year was my worst year ever. I went The Revenant in so many categories, and like the sound ones and Best Picture, and I really got.
Yeah. So I went Mad Max for pretty much everything. And then I blew I think I blew Picture Director, which screwed me a bit, but I'd done really well outside of those two.
I blew Picture. I did. I blew Picture, and but I was just glad that I didn't jump on the Big Short bandwagon.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, the Oscars, they're starting in 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
15 minutes to the show. We better all go get ready. People watching, you better go get ready. We're going to have a live blog at goldderby.com, updated winners. That's sort of the place you should be on your phone or on your computer while you're watching the big awards. Then let's come back here. We'll meet after the show, pick our jaws up off the floor, do a bit of an Oscar post-mortem, and talk about all the big wins, surprises, upsets, and politics, probably, of the 2017 Oscar, or the 2016 Oscar races.